You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona. With me always, good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And Shannon G. and Mesa AZ.
We'd like to welcome you once again to this week's podcast. We have some really good feedback. We posted our YouTube channel, so if you're not subscribed on our YouTube channel, please go there and give us a thumbs up and a like. We were able to have Scott with us last time, and we got a lot of good feedback from his group. So we're excited about that. Also, you can check us out on any of your podcast sites, whether it be Apple or Spotify or Amazon or whoever. I think we're on all those. So yeah, we're glad you're here. We love to hear from you. So please reach out and send us a note if you have time. We are excited because a couple I guess it was a couple of weeks, maybe a week ago. I think it's a week ago. We had, barely a week ago. Shannon was able to compete in Gunsmoke this year. Again, you competed last time, I think, and got it. So we're going to talk a little bit about Gunsmoke, what it takes to get there. Shannon did really, really well. So why don't you kind of take us through what were you thinking when you got to Gunsmoke?
What was
Or
I
how did you
thinking?
get there?
What was I thinking? Well, it started a long time ago. No, I was kidding. But anyway,
They made me go.
so I competed in
Yeah,
Gunsmoke
right.
last year, and then
The
and that led
galaxy
into
far, far away.
the far, far away. And that led into competing in the Scale Masters Championship, which is October, and I got fourth place
Mhm.
there. So my goal this year was to go up a notch at least. So that was my goal. I'm like, I
Right.
competed. I know what to expect. The big difference this year was Gunsmoke had traditionally been under the Scale Masters rules of the scale competition, and there's the competing or accompanying rules that are under what's called NASA, the National Association of Scale Air Modelers, I believe is the proper term
Mhm.
for it. And so Gunsmoke switched to those rules, and it's not that they're that much different. There's a few things that are different, kind of more advantageous to probably the average modeler, if anything. So that was just the contest director's choice to change that. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It was just a change that was decided to be made. So just had to be prepared to deal with that. So last year I had a cool looking airplane. I had a little J3 Cub from Hobby King I picked up.
Mhm.
It flew horribly, and I flew it horribly, and I just wasn't I wasn't in the groove. Let's put it that way. And I was like, okay, this is because I just didn't get it set up in time, and
But it looked
I dilly dallied.
marvelous.
So it did. Oh
It
my
looked
gosh! I
great.
was like, that. Wow. Okay, let's scale. Yeah, it worked. It looks good. But yeah, I just didn't. I just didn't do real well. So, but I learned a lot. So that was the most important thing. So this year
Mhm.
going back, I changed my routine a little bit. So you have to have 10 maneuvers. There's 5 you have to have: takeoff, landing, touch and go, not touch and go, figure 8, and then just scale realism, and then a fly past. So I did a descending 360 as my other maneuver, and then you can use a mechanical option, which could have been either flaps or retracts, or if you had a bomb drop, that would have worked too. I opted for the flaps. I could have gone retracts, and I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have. But anyway, so I chose those to go along with my missed approach and my landing. So the first day, Friday, it was a 2-day event. Did 2 rounds on Friday, 2 rounds on Saturday. We don't have to do, since I was in the Pro-Am sportsman group. Well, we don't get the full scale judging as far as the documentation and everything. Basically, I had to show a picture of the aircraft. Well, I was flying the T-28 Trojan that I won at AEF, and then dolled it up, and I posted pictures of it. I did some panel lines, and I got some graphics and calligraphics. Made it look nice. I mean, it was, I definitely could have even competed in the next level up if I wanted to. Wouldn't have done very
Which
well,
is?
probably, but it was just, just want to be pretty.
What's the next level up?
Yeah. What's the next level up?
What is it? I forget all the categories now. I think it's not, if it's not expert, it's open. It's one of those two. And then there's I forget all of the categories. I apologize. I should have done my homework.
Right.
I was just focused on one. But
Gotcha.
so there was so I was prepared for that. You know, there was 4 competitors in this year in my category, and there was another T28 just like mine, and there was
Mhm.
and then there was another T28 in the Pro Am. Um, what's the next level? Pro Am Pro, like the next level up. So we had a bunch of T28s. It was great, and they're almost every plane except for like 2 were yellow. So there's actually pictures from on the Gunsmoke website of all the yellow planes. So there's like a Stearman, a Cub, and then all the T28s. So it was and a Jenny. So every other plane was like yellow. So it was kind of cool that we had just all yellow airplanes. So Friday the weather was very windy, and I don't mind flying in the wind, but it was really windy. So my first round, I didn't do too bad. I think I goofed on my figure eight was lousy just because it was getting blown all over the place. And then
Mhm.
I think I did okay in my descending 360 using the flaps. I think but I botched the landing just because I came in way too long, and that was just because I kept trying to adjust for the wind. I just brought it in too long, so whatever. And then the second flight, I almost didn't do the second flight because it got windier. So I mean, there was
Mhm.
people that did not do it. Of the 4 competitors, I was the only one, no, one of 2 that did the second round on Friday. Everyone else kind of sat it out. But I want to get my best shot, so I do flew it. I didn't do that bad. It was almost I think my score was the same. I had the exact same score for both rounds, like 83 points. I think I got out of 100, so I got that. So then Saturday rolled around. Saturday was much better for the most part. Hardly any wind. It was just a little breezy. But then my third round was really, really good. I think I got like 90 something. But then my fourth round, the wind picked up right as I was getting ready to land, and I kind of just botched the landing. So took me down a notch or two. But what the winner in the pro am, in my pro am sportsman, Steve Gladstone. This is his first scale contest, by the way, but he's a longtime flyer. He flies turbines. I think you know him. So he brought out his
Mhm.
turboprop PC-21, Pilatus PC-21 in the Swiss colors. Well,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was his plane he was competing with against, you know, 2 other T-28 Trojans and an E-flite F-86 or F-16.
Right.
Because the other guy that did it was his first scale
Yeah.
contest. This guy Alan, great guy in my club. I give him kudos beyond belief for attempting to do this after only been flying for like 8 months. And he flew with an E-flite F-86 or F-18
Oh,
F-16,
wow.
and he was worried about getting all maneuvers done in the time the time
Oh,
frame. And he actually had a broken
right.
aircraft, like the fuselage was cracked, so it was acting really funny. And then he had like a backup plane, like
Huh.
he had a backup F-16, so just like the real Thunderbirds. So
Yeah.
but and
Yeah.
he didn't,
There you go.
his maneuvers were not, he wasn't quite there, but his drive and his will, I'm like, okay, you got to keep doing this
Mhm.
because you're the right kind of guy for this. And he learned a
Yeah,
lot and he
sure.
had so much fun. But Steve, back to Steve, um, you know, turbine and giant, large scale turbine. I think you've seen his plane, probably at an event, probably. It's just that big
Yeah.
PC-21 turboprop. I think a couple guys have them. I don't know who makes it anyway. Is it Carf?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's flying like in the
I
beginner.
think so. It's a
Yeah,
comparf.
he's flying into the
Mhm.
beginner with a $15,000 plane. And I'm flying with one I got for free.
Right. Right.
So there's some disparity
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
so he blew me out of the water. He won because it was mainly flying for that event. So he blew me out of the water.
Right.
Guy ahead of me, Ollie. He's one of our older club members. He did really well. He was flying T-28. He just did some of his maneuvers a little bit better than I did. He was practicing a lot more than I did because he can go out and practice because he's retired.
Right.
So, but it was
Yeah.
just fun. We had a great time. I was helping. And then Paul Stenberg came over from California. He competed, and he did. He was in the next class. He got second place, I think, in the program pro level. So good for him. And he was flying a T-28 also.
That is very
So
cool.
it
Well,
was a
that's
good
kinda
weekend,
cool.
and we were all done by like 1 o'clock on Saturday. So it was a really two rounds on Friday, 2 rounds on Saturday, and we didn't have as many competitors. I think because of the change in the rules, some people just didn't know what they were. Some people were showing some solidarity towards the other rules, so they're going to compete in another event in another state because we're going to have another one here. So, but overall, it was a great event. Tim Dickey was the CD, did a great job, and I brought home a piece of hardware, got third place, so I'm happy.
That is
Nice.
impressive. So that it's always good to hear that Shannon wins awards.
Yeah, I got a couple. I got a couple awards the last 9 months, so I'm happy.
Oh no, you have. So tell me if this is the so I have the Pro-Am Sportsman,
That's what I flew in.
which I think is the entry
Yes.
level, and then they have the Pro-Am Pro, which is
kind of the same thing, but like if you win the Pro-Am Sportsman, you go up to the Pro-Am Pro, and what's the difference? I think you get some different points.
They don't require full documentation, only proof the aircraft for a maximum of 5 static points, allowing for virtually any type of aircraft to be entered. Then you have Advanced,
There we go,
which is a
Advanced.
category for pilots who built their aircraft or purchased their as part of a team. The entrants provide fuel documentation for static judging and the same as the team and expert categories. Then you have a team, which is for more than one, and then the expert, which is for the builder and the pilot who builds and flies his own airplane. So that's pretty cool. Well, that's very amazing, and a good turnout. You said
it was a little low. We had 13 pilots. We were expecting about 25. Yeah, so it was a little lower than we expected. But again, with the change in rules, I think some people just were a little leery of it. I mean, the NASA rules are basically kind of like the AMA. Like if you go to the NATS and compete in the scale competition up in Muncie, it's those rules that they fall under. So, and like the team scale, that's one of the things that's different between Scale Masters and NASA this year is they took the team scale out of Scale Masters. So even if you qualify, because if you qualify, like I qualify for Scale Masters now, if I really want to go, and it's over in California in October, so I might go. We'll see. But they don't have a team scale, so you can't really do anything other than go to the Nats with it. So that's kind of a bummer.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, we congratulate you for a third place win. That's all. That's kind of cool.
And, I don't know if you saw in all the pictures, I'm wearing my Park Flyer podcast hoodie, so
I know we did. We saw that. Yeah, my wife even commented on that.
I was like, okay, that's who I'm.
So
I'm part of the factory
cool.
team.
So Mike, I thought you were going to compete as well.
I was thinking about it, but I had to work, so I didn't get back until actually I could have gone on Saturday. But then I would have only been able to do like.
Well, there was people that only did 2 rounds, because that was actually one of the things that was cool about it. And I probably should have communicated that to you too. That because there are some people that just couldn't commit to a Friday. They said if they take the best of 2 rounds. So if you only do 2 rounds, then that's what you get. So
you only do 2.
So you can only so there was I think one person. We expected a lot more people to do the 1-day option, and they just didn't show up. But we did have at least one that showed up, and I think Noel Hunt. He did like first or second place in something. He's phenomenal with what he makes. He's in the expert class, so he's up there.
Oh wow, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, well, so my T-28 when Shannon and I were out at the event here, the Warbirds and Classics event, I flew the flaps completely off of the thing. And I say that in jest, but it really did happen. So, Shannon and I flew around, and Shannon's actually got a secret about that event too. I don't think he's told, but Shannon and I finally, he was putting his together for that event, and then I had mine all ready to go. And so we had already flown mine several times. And so I was like, Shannon, come on, let's go. And so we went and flew it around. Well, one of the fun things to do with that thing is to drop the flaps and just see how slow you can get it, right? And just drag it through the air. But it requires a little bit of thrust and, a little bit nose up attitude, and it's just dragging the flaps everywhere. So I spent, probably, I don't know, half the flight with the flaps hanging down, just doing these really slow flybys. Anyway, I came down on we flew once or twice, and then Shannon and I did like a formation flight, and I was telling him, man, your airplane's like, I don't understand. I can't keep up with you. It's not reacting weird.
Yeah, I remember this.
There was a reason for that. Okay, I remember
that story.
But but yeah, when I got home, or actually when I got done with that flight, went up to go fly it again. One of the guys basically said, "Hey, your flaps are kind of flappy." And as I flew by, the flaps were actually
Flapping.
moving like a bird's wing, and they were
Making
flapping.
a caw,
And I was like, "Well,
caw.
that can't be good." So I put them back up
Caw,
and then
caw.
flew it around. I know when I touched down and I got it over to the bench or to the table, I realized that I had stripped both of the flap servos.
That's hard to
So
believe.
they're just
I
totally
thought. I
stripped
mean,
out.
I've seen people fly the heck out
It
of that
is
thing,
hard to
especially you've
believe.
seen Allie fly the heck out of it, and
Uh,
it's.
yeah, but he's not doing it with the flaps
But
down.
sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of maneuvers he does with the flaps
Yeah,
down, but
sometimes he does,
maybe
but
but I think but
yeah,
maybe you just pushed the limit of the flap.
probably just pushing it a little
So
harder.
mine,
I
Yeah.
probably
I put my plane
yeah.
together, and I flew with you,
Mhm.
Mike, and I'm like, but even you commented the first time,
Yeah,
well, your sound's different than mine, and it
yeah,
flew a little different. I was like, oh, this
yeah.
is flying a little wonky. So I'm flying around, and then I put it away. Then the
Mhm.
last weekend before, the weekend before, I was getting ready for the event. I go out flying, and one of my other friends has one. I mean, there are so many of these planes out of the field now. It's not even funny, but it's a great
Yeah, there
airplane. I
are a
mean, it
lot.
just flies amazingly when you have it set up right. And my friend's
Right.
like, "There's something wrong with your plane." I go, "Okay." And I look down at his plane, and I'm like, "Wait a second, is my prop on backwards?" Sure enough,
Which
my
it
prop
is.
was on backwards from day one, and it's something
Uh,
that you put on
Wow.
yourself, and that's
That's a testament to having a very
wah.
powerful
Oh my
motor
god,
out
yeah.
there.
I mean, it's like it flew,
yeah,
but it made a
exactly.
horrible noise. It just,
Horrible noise. They make
Well,
horrible
it did
noises.
make a
yeah.
weird noise, and it was like I said, I kept asking him if he was at full throttle. I'm like, "Are you full throttle?" He's like, "No." I was like, "What is
Well,
wrong with
actually,
your
it was.
plane?"
That's
Because I was having a hard
I
time as
was
we
at full throttle,
it
yeah,
it
and
was at
because
full throttle,
I was
right?
only getting like 3-minute
Yes.
flights, and then once I put the prop on, I was like, "Oh, I can fly the thing for 6,
Right.
7, 8 minutes," and, um, I had this
Right, right, right.
That's
I had this
amazing.
great set of 8 cell or 8 no, not 8 cell, but 6 cell, 8,000 batteries that I bought, and totally forgot I bought them. I bought them for the L-39, but, I only fly that so often.
Right.
And so I started using those, and those things are perfect for this airplane. I mean, they give you that little bit extra weight, so it feels a little bit more meaty. And I could
Yeah.
fly the thing for like almost 10 minutes with good throttle management. I mean, when I was
Holy
coming down from
cow.
my full routine, like, I didn't even worry
Mhm.
about the timer on my, when I'm doing my routine. I just did my routine. I had to loiter a couple
Right.
times. Actually, um, really funny story with Steve's plane. So Steve and I were both flying. Where there was like 3 different flight stations, so there's usually at least 2 planes in the air. So me and
Mhm.
Steve were flying, and your box is a little to the left or a little to the right of each other. So he's flying his big turbine. I'm flying my plane, and there was a couple times where we got really close. And there was one time where it was like,
Oh, yeah.
"Ooh, we did not like that." And so Steve, politely asked, "Hey, can we fly, like, stagger the times because I've got a little bit more money in my airplane than he has in his." And I understand that,
Right.
for a competition, I totally get it.
I do.
So yeah, so
Sure,
he opted to
sure.
fly a little different, and Tim was really good about that because I was calling for Paul, calling off his maneuvers. He was calling for me, so we had to jump back and forth. He was on a different flight line, and then I was
Oh, right,
calling for
right,
the other 2 guys besides Steve in my class, Ollie and Alan.
right,
So you can tell it's like it's not, I'm not out there to you know beat everybody per se, but it's all about we're all having a good time
right.
and we're all competing.
Sure.
I think it was really a good weekend. So
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm sorry I missed it. Like I said, I was having to work. I got back, too late to kinda get
well,
over there, and
what
I
we
really
could
don't know what
do.
airplane I would have flown,
We
but
got some time to plan this. So the Scale Masters event is in Hemet, California, which isn't too far away from here.
mhm.
It's the weekend of
Okay.
my birthday, October 10th to the 13th. So
Oh,
I'm almost thinking, okay, I think I'm gonna go compete for my birthday in Scale Masters. So
there
anyway, you
you
guys
go.
could come along. We
We might
could
have to do that.
could make it a celebratory weekend, a
Make
birthday
it a
weekend, and
birthday
you could be my
weekend?
flight crew, and yeah. So
There you go. That's
yeah,
true, we could do that.
think
We'll have to
about it,
put that
guys. Got
down.
it.
So, that'd be kinda
And you've
awesome.
got
We'll
and
put
you've got
that
the
on the
motorhome mic, so
calendar.
there you
I do. Although people are actually Barry just asked me, he's like, Are you going to Fresno?" And I go, "For what?" And he goes, "Well, there's an RC event up there. I'd really like to go." And he's like
Yeah.
hinting around. I started laughing. I was like, do you need the motorhome? He's like, yeah, well, that'd be nice. I'm like, okay. So that
Yeah.
is why I bought it. But I fell in love with it at an RC event. One of the other guys had one, and I was like, man, this has got you can't get any better than
Yeah,
this.
well,
This is
I
really
grew up
cool.
with my
So,
family had a motorhome. I was in like high school and into college, and
right,
I totally miss
right.
having one. But yeah, but they're kind of like,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it
It's
is.
kind of
Yeah,
convenient. So anyway, well, that's amazing that we were able to have you there. Thank you very much for
I'm glad.
representing us. I did, like I said, my wife mentioned the fact that you had the Park Flyer podcast hoodie on, so I think that's stellar. And then if you haven't seen already, I kind of finally got my gift in in the background here is one of the Motion RC OB10s. Hasn't flown yet, but it is all ready to go. So it's finally got its makeup on and got all the stuff in there. I just have to have a day where it's not blowing 40 knots down the runway like it was this morning. I had plans to go out and maiden it, and I walked outside, and my flag pole is just sticking straight out. I'm like, okay, well, that's not a not a good day to maiden
Go ahead,
a
try it.
new
What could
airplane. So
possibly go wrong?
I could have, but whatever. And I had some other events, some real, some not real, but full scale stuff I had to do as well. So I actually went out to that. But
Hey,
I'm
so
excited about it.
did you synchronize your motors?
I did.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Well,
A
how
lot
do
of
you
people say.
synchronize? What do
Well,
you mean?
basically by making sure they're kind of calibrated the same way. Meaning that they're both motors are calibrated and
They are
they
both
start the same
calibrated.
time and they stop the same time. And
They do.
you could also throw on your watt
I'll send
meter
you a
just to make
video
sure.
and you tell me if they start and stop at the same time. Now, I
Okay.
will tell you that Motion RC did a really good job of setting that up. They are wide together.
Okay.
So, when you plug the throttle in, they are wide. And then they set them to where when you do the calibration, you're
Hmm.
basically calibrating them both
Oh, okay.
simultaneously.
That's
So,
that's good. That's good.
um, yeah. So it did. It took a little bit. You kind of have to be patient. Scott and I, when Scott got his, he was kind of frustrated because he's like, the motors don't work, And I said, well, it's something, I'm not hearing the beeps. So they're not activating, right? They're just beeping. But
Right.
on these particular ones, you plug it in, you have to wait like 4 seconds or 5 seconds before
Oh,
they
okay.
actually start beeping. And so it puts the power to it, but because of the BEC or the UBEC in there, it doesn't it doesn't arm like right this second, and then you have to wait for a second, and then it'll go
Right.
beep, beep, and then you're like, oh, okay. But then one starts and the other starts, and then when they're both beeping simultaneously, then you go back to idle, and then there'll be a couple seconds of silence, and then they'll both spool up at the same time. So you
Okay.
hear
That's
both
good.
beeps and everything kind of go. So but yeah, the props actually spin. They sound really good too. I was really shocked. It has a really good sound to it. I taxied it around out in the driveway, yesterday, and I got all the throws set and everything, so it's ready. Um, I don't know if you probably can't see it right in the back, but if you notice, I took a little extra time and painted the tips of
Oh,
the
okay.
rockets.
I can almost think that out.
Oh,
Almost think
Can
that
you
out.
nice.
Yeah.
see the yellow right there?
Yeah.
There's yellow, and hold on, let me
Yeah,
let me see
you
if I
just
can
barely
grab it
see
real
it.
quick.
Coming at you in 3D.
Yeah, because normally a lot of people who have dual engine airplanes like that, that's one of the things they miss
Just get them.
is calibrating
Yeah.
their motors, and then they're wondering why. Man, I keep trying to trim this thing, and the plane's flying wonky and doing
Yeah.
wonky
Well, I've got
things, and
a.
the
Yeah.
motors are out
Yeah.
of
That's
sync.
awesome. Yep. There you go. Loaded,
So,
prepared.
yeah, they're on both ends, so it doesn't matter which way I put them on.
Uh,
It's kind of tricky, but I couldn't decide. I did it red at first because that's what the picture showed, and then I started thinking about it, and I was like, they
yep.
do have a yellow one, so I painted it
I
yellow
think
and
it's
red,
the
but I
different,
can always paint this
like
red if
some
I
are
need
like
to.
smoke
But
ones or flare ones, and then some are like the actual loads. I think that's what it is.
yeah, I think so
I recall.
too, something like that. But anyway, so and then I didn't make this one as dirty as the T-28 Trojan. I really went crazy on the Trojan, made it all
That's what I
look
did.
like a trainer. But this one here, I just did a really light um, panel lines and
Little
stuff on it
patina.
because it's green and nothing really shows up on it, but I didn't want it to
Yeah.
be
Little
really
patina.
dirty, so it looks much better.
Yeah.
Go patina. There you go. But yeah, it looks really good. I actually the stacks on the back, I painted them. They were green. I painted them black, so it looks like a real stack. And then yeah, it's pretty exciting. Everything kind of just pops off the thing, which is really kind of cool too. So I'm excited to go fly it. See how it is. I put all the antennas on. The only thing that makes me nervous is right on the front of it. There's a pitot tube that's about 2 inches long. And every time I
Amazing.
turn around, I'm catching it on something, and I'm thinking, ah, it's gonna break off any second now, you know. So I just have to be kind of careful because I'm used to it. Matter of fact, I was moving it and I was gonna set it on its nose, and it's got that point that's out there, and I'm like, oh, and I glued it. I just tacked it in with a little,
Yeah. Yeah.
foam tack glue. So I could probably twist it and pull it out and just, kind of put it in and out as I fly it, but I don't know. It looks okay. I like it. And the wings actually come off,
Mhm.
the little outside section of wings come off. So it's from the nacelles inside, and so it's fairly easy to transport. But the only bad thing is because these little pods stick out at a 45-degree angle. If you pull the gear up, it can't
Mhm.
set flat on its belly.
Yeah.
It sits on those pods, and then those pods are just glued in,
Yeah.
so it'll just, you know, so it has to sit on its gear. Yeah, it has to sit on the gear.
Have you
But
ever
that's okay. I'm sure I could
seen
probably build one of those
the
things that holds it.
when they were one of the competitor aircrafts to this that Lockheed made? It was a very similar design, but it had really stubby wings, even stubbier than the real OV-10. You can look it up. Like I forget what the
Well, isn't that
no
the
it
Mohawk? Didn't they have like a
no there was this
OV-10
is the OV-10
Bronco?
Bronco. Then the Mohawk is a totally
And
different
then
airplane. That was a turboprop. Like different, but no, this is actually was
oh,
one of the
okay,
competitors that
gotcha.
lost out to the
Mhm.
Bronco. I think Lockheed made it, and you can look it
Oh,
up. They
gotcha.
flew it,
I gotcha.
but it has these really stubby wings. Like I mean, they barely come out
Mhm.
past the like
Hmm,
where the tip of the prop would be. And yeah, so that was one of
really?
the competitors. So it was very similar, but I think they went with a more conventional, if you want to call that a conventional aircraft at all.
Yeah, go figure. Well, it's funny 'cause, Barry saw that I had this, sitting on the table. He FaceTimed me for something or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, where'd you get that airplane?" I said, "Oh, my friend Scott," and, I did some work, for his friend Dave, and, the 2 of them kinda went in on it, and Dave said, "Hey, I wanna do something nice for Mike," and Scott's like, "Yeah, well, I have this airplane, and I want Mike to have it too," so they pitched in, and it showed up at the on my front porch, and I'm like, "Great, another project," but I'm pretty excited about it. And, anyway, Barry saw that he had it, so about 10 minutes after he saw that, I got an email that someone is selling their Hangar
Oh,
9 version, and he's like, "Hey, I got this one because they don't those are all they're not,
Yeah, they're gone.
they're
Yep.
out.
Yeah.
They're out. So you can't order them. I don't think I know if it's been discontinued or if they're just out of stock. I can't remember, but they may have discontinued the run, but anyway, he's like, "Hey, look what I found," and I'm thinking, "Ugh, I already have
yeah.
so many big airplanes in here that it's gonna be difficult to store. I'm gonna need to build another shop out the back." And my wife's already talking to me about it. She's like, we could make this my office and put yours out in the back 40." I was like, "Yeah, I guess you could." I don't know. But it's kinda difficult. I was like, "Yeah, bring it on." So now it's like I'm running out of storage space, so
And
it's
she'll
kinda
shortly
funny.
thereafter change the locks on
But,
you.
yeah, that's probably true too. That's probably true. What else is on the news? Oh, yeah, the, Zaroli Bearcat got, I brought it in and, stripped everything off of it. It's down to the bare bones, so I'm starting into that. I found some damage in some of the wings and, the gear, had been torn out, and so I have to redo some of that. Anyway, I wound up, just go ahead and I just ordered a new wing set, so I'm just laying up the wings, this week and have it sitting over on there, and the new gear, is all gonna be new, so the wings should be the wings are laid up now, they're not glued together, just tacked
Yep.
with CA, so it's just all just sitting there, but I'll get the epoxy out when I get a little bit extra time and kinda glue everything in, and then I gotta seat it into the
Yep.
saddle of the
Yep.
airplane, the fuselage,
Yep.
to make sure that it all seats correctly. And once I do all that, then, I'm really seriously thinking about making this an
I think
electric.
that'd be awesome, personally,
So,
for
this is a
AEF
Rolly.
next year.
I think so too, and, it's got the Robart gear on it. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I actually wound up with another Bearcat at the auction, so,
That's right.
the matter of fact, he just texted me today and said, "Hey, I guess your fuselage is ready to be picked up." So I got the fuselage and the gear and everything else that's going in that one. So that one there is a Bates, not a Zeroli, but it's a fiberglass fuse and
Yes.
stuff that I won at the Warburton Classic. So I didn't really win it. It was an auction, but I couldn't pass it up. It was too good of a deal. So anyway,
So did the first
well,
Bearcat come with motors or not?
no,
It came with Zeroles,
Mm-mm.
right? Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering.
The Zeroli are the plans that it was built from, and
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
got no motor. It came with
Gotcha,
retracts,
gotcha.
but no motor. So,
Gotcha. I
and
couldn't remember.
yeah, pretty much I've gotten everything down to where it's all raw wood right now. Except the fuselage is already fiberglassed, but the wood wings and the tail sections and all the control surfaces are all stripped. So, except for the
So
flaps and the ailerons.
So after this whole ordeal, do you have anything to pass on to our listeners about buying used planes or things to look for when you're buying a used plane?
I do, and that's a whole nother episode. Thank you for
Bum, bum,
giving us the
bum.
preview of that. But yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, I think both of us do. You actually bought a couple airplanes, and
Oh, yeah.
we'll save that for the next episode since we're out of time.
Almost every plane I own is a
Yeah,
used one,
exactly.
unless I
So,
win it. Yeah.
unfortunately, we are out of time. But yeah, our next episode we can talk about used airplanes and some of the things you got to make sure you're looking at, and what happens if you get into some of that stuff, because both of us have had that opportunity. But for now, I'm Michael in Arizona.
I'm Jay in the hills of Texas.
And Shannon G and Mesa AZ.
And we, once again, would like to congratulate Shannon on a third place victory. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.